Okay, so we are starting a new unit called the dot, the line, and the three basic shapes. If you have not turned in your frog outline, please finish that and let me know when you're done so I can go ahead and upload your file to my terabyte drive because I'd like to print out some of those frogs. And I also want to have a record of all of your work because you will need it when we start putting this together in a portfolio. By the end of class, everyone will have a portfolio. So let's get started on the dot assignment. Let's go up to File, New. And we're going to name this the dot assignment. Okay, we're going to put this on print in case we want to print it. We'll talk more about what your options are for the profile later. Number of artboards, 1. Size is letter. Make sure that your width and height are not in points. Click on that drop down arrow. We want it to be in inches, and it immediately changes to 8.5 by 11. We are not going to talk about bleed right now in this project. Click OK. Here's your artboard. Let's practice using our ellipse tool today because we're going to use that tool and we're going to actually have it draw circles for us and not ellipses. When you see these small arrows, you know that there are other tools hiding behind it. If you cannot find your ellipse tool, please click on the drop-down arrow for any tool that is showing. You might see the rectangular tool or you might see the star tool. When you right-click on it, you can go ahead and find the tool that you need to use. It's going to reflect the last tool you used, so if you were using a specific tool when you were in the frog outline, that's the last tool it will show. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw some ellipses in different sizes, kind of play around with it a little bit. We're going to do some different things with these. There we got a circle right there, kind of. And we can go ahead and just have some fun with that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my direct selection tool, or I'm sorry, not my direct, but my selection tool, which is also the V shortcut on the keyboard. Click that, it's the black arrow. When I click the black arrow and I click on my shape, it gives me a blue box so that I could select the shape and I can manipulate that shape any way I want. I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller. If I click on the white direct selection tool, which is a shortcut A on the keyboard, it doesn't give me a selection box, it shows me my anchor points. I can click on those anchor points and I get handles. And I can drag those handles and I can make all kinds of really fun shapes. So yesterday, when we were talking about the difference between vector and bitmap, this is the key difference. You can't do this with a pixelated shape. So that's just some information about your tools. Let's go ahead and click and delete that because we're not going to be using that today, but I do want you to start getting familiar with all the different uses for all of the tools. Next, let's go here to your fill and stroke. When you run your, let's go to get your selection tool. Let's get the black tool, okay, the black arrow tool. When we run the arrow over the items, it tells us what it does, okay? Fill, stroke. These arrows here swap the fill and the stroke. So if I have this item selected, I have a white fill with a black stroke. If I want to switch that, I can swap it out. For the next project that we're going to do, we don't want to have any stroke. So we're going to click on this. And we're going to have a black fill with no stroke. So be sure when you set up your workspace, you have a black fill with no stroke. And so let's go ahead and let's just select all of these for right now. And when you select something like this, this is called marqueeing. And we have marqueed all of the shapes that we just drew. We're just going to delete them because we don't need them today. That was just a practice. Now, we're going to go back to our ellipse tool and we're going to get started on the dot assignment. Make sure your ellipse tool is showing. Click on that so it's selected. And you're going to hold down the shift key and you're going to drag out, hold down your shift key and click on the mouse and you're going to drag out a circle. And I want my circle to be about 77 inches. 0.77, of course, not 77 inches, but it's 0.77 inches. Okay. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to get a box. And it's going to give me some width and some height. I'm going to go, okay. It's going to make me the exact same circle again. Click on it. Okay. Click on it. Okay. Click on it. Okay. Click on it 10 times. There's another way you could do this as well. I'm going to show you 3 different ways you can reproduce the circle, but this is probably the best way to get the same size circle over and over again with the least amount of work. Now, there's another way too. Back to my direct selection tool. I could have made that circle right here. I could have gone Control-C, Control-V, and moved that circle up here. Now watch that green line. That green line is going to help make sure that those circles are aligned. But there's another way to align them as well. So not to worry. Okay. So there's another way to duplicate this, because there are so many different ways to do the same thing in Illustrator. So you might talk to someone and they might say, oh, no, I don't do it that way. I do it like this. And they're probably right, because you have to find, once you get to know the program, the way you like to use it best. So the other way to duplicate this black dot, or this circle filled with black, is to select it by clicking on it, get your box around it, your blue line box, hit the Alt key, and watch, I get 2 arrows. I get a black arrow and a white arrow. Hit the Alt key and your mouse, and I should be able to drag it out. Sometimes it works. It worked. Sometimes it doesn't. I kind of find that to be a little bit unreliable. So I am just going to go ahead and now pull up all of my circles to make one complete row. I'm aligning them with that center green line. Okay? You don't have to worry so much about the alignment, because we're going to go back and we're going to find an alignment tool to help you do that. Everything in these programs is designed to make it easy and to make it look perfect. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oop, I gotta fit one more on there. Darn. Let's see. I gotta move it over a little bit. I move it over. I don't want them to touch, so no touching circles. No touching circles. We want them to have a space in between. So you're gonna have to go ahead, eyeball it a little bit, where they look best. Let's squeeze that number 10 in there. Maybe it's going to hang off a little bit. There it goes. It's going to bleed off the page a little bit. That's okay. That would be called a bleed. If you can get your circle a little bit smaller and reproduce it so it fits perfectly on there, that would be great. I don't want to spend too much time on this right now, because I want you to work on the project. And I want to try to show you how in one video without having to make 2 or 3 videos. So we have a column, 10 dot column. 1, 2, 3, 4, or I should say 10 columns of dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, now we want to duplicate that all throughout our paper. Let's go and select it, and Control-C, Control-V, and let's go ahead and do that. But you know what? Before I want to do that, I'm going to delete that out. Before I do that, I want to select it first, and I want to show you how to align. So let's select it. See, it says Align Panel here, and we're going to look at Distribute the Spacing. And we want to distribute the spacing. Let's see if it's this one. Horizontal, distribute space. Yes, you see. It is this one right here. Distribute spacing, and it says horizontal distribute space. And that will make them all equally spaced perfectly. See that? Let's select it again. How did I do that? I went up to Align. I hit Horizontal distribute space. Okay? If you can't find your Align, go up to Windows. Find Align. Select it. And there it is. We don't want to distribute center, not left, vertical. Where's that? Vertical line, horizontal, align right. Where's your, you should find distribute spacing. You should find that. Let's find that here. Show options. There we go. If you can't find distribute spacing, go to the drop-down box, show options, and there you'll find it. And what you want in distribute spacing is horizontal distribute space. Let's do that again. X that out. Okay. My horizontal tool is now disappeared. Oh my gosh, where'd it go? Window, align. I'm going to hide the options. Let's do that again. Window, align. Here I get my tools. What happens if you can't find that same exact tool I used? Drop down. Click on it. Show options. Click on it. Distribute spacing. Second item, however you'd like to describe that. Horizontally distribute space. Be sure all of your dots are selected with your black arrow tool. Click on it. And it doesn't have, it's not going to do anything because I already did it once. Okay? Now the space is distributed equally in between each one of these dots. Select it. Control C, Control V. Move it. Don't worry about aligning it. We're going to do that later. Do that until the whole entire page is filled up with your dots. And then when you're done with that, we'll do the rest of the assignment. Okay, so what happens if a few of your rows of dots are a little bit off? Okay, well, let's select that row. I mean, I can really see that this row is really off. I'm going to select it till I get my blue box, and I'm going to go to my arrow keys. And I'm going to nudge it with my arrow key so that it kind of gets onto the artboard right there. So we have the best, and this one I'm going to nudge up a little bit. So I'm going to use my up key, my up arrow, to nudge that a little bit. We can see that some of these rows are a little crooked. So let's go ahead and let's get those to the best of our ability aligned, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go row by row. And I actually grouped mine, so let me ungroup mine. And let's go on. You don't have to do this. I'm going to ungroup mine. Okay, so I'm going to go row by row. And what we're going to do is, as we're going row by row, I'm selecting row by, once you get all of your lines of dots reproduced, you're going to go align. We're going to go back to that, just distribute spacing, horizontal distribute space. And that's going to line up all of your little dots so that they are aligned perfectly. Horizontal distribute space, okay? Okay. So select your rows. We're going to get our nice dots all aligned there. Select each row, align, distribute spacing, horizontal distribute space. Okay, so go ahead and do that for each row of dots so all of those dots are lining up in perfect rows. Okay, so I suggest you go through this video a few times so you can go ahead and get your dots all lined up, and you can go ahead and get them looking like this. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to that figure ground study. It's an on-off study, okay? And we're going to start deciding how we're going to make some shapes in here. So what if I just wanted to start out with some basic shapes? Maybe I just want to make an arrow. Maybe I want to kind of plot out my points, or how is that going to look if I want to make an arrow? Which shapes would I turn white, and how would I do that? So I'll show you that really quick. I'm going to select any circle, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make both the stroke and the fill with none. And that's going to leave me with a white space. Remember, our object here is to do a removal of dots. What happens if I want to put that dot back there? I'm like, oh no, I really want to fill that in with the dot. Well, click any of the dots that are still there